Welcome back. This is Sister Means with you for another episode of Greenleaf Season 2, Episode 13, Silence and Loneliness. This episode didn't have a whole lot going on, but yet it did. So let's just get to it. The beginning scene starts off in a dream sequence where Grace is running on the Greenleaf property. And as she's running, she sees a young girl running towards her in the opposite direction than she's going. And she's looking at the girl, and her jogging slows down to a stop as the girl goes past her. She sees that the young girl is distraught and crying, and apparently running away from something or someone. And then she looks forward, and emerging is Robert. And she looks at Robert and she says, "I didn't say anything." And he says, "Good girl." And she wakes up. And we'll talk about more of that in a moment. Alright, let's talk about Sophia. Sophia wants to go to the cotillion. I don't know where her little boyfriend is, Roberto. They don't mention him at all. But apparently Ray can't take her. And she has no date to the cotillion. Bishop offers to escort her to the cotillion, and she accepts. She also teases her mother because she inquires about Darius and why he hasn't been around, and Grace indicates that they are taking a little break. She said, well, the best way to fix a problem in a relationship is actually to have one. And so I thought that was cute. And a lot of people may have saw that as being fresh, but in their relationship, based on the type of relationship they have, it was cute. Okay. Additionally, we go into Charity. Charity's back in Nashville with Jabari. They're working with Jacqueline Carr. And Jacqueline Carr likes Charity's song, but wants to make changes to it. And you know how artists are. They're sensitive about their, well, ask Erica to do if you don't know. But anyway, she is, she gets upset because basically Jacqueline Carr has a lot of changes that she wants to make. And, you know, Charity feels like she butchered her song. But the real icing on the cake is the way Jabari responds to Jacqueline when she's about to leave the session. He hugs her and kisses her on the cheek. And so she's just like really all around irritated. And Jabari inquires, what's going on with you? Because he sees her demeanor change. And she first starts talking about the song and how Jacqueline Carr is just ripping it to shreds. And he's like, look, that's the art. And, you know, she's supposed to make it her own. Ideally, you want to get a song on her album. That's how you get paid, you know, so make the changes so that can happen. And then she goes on to, do you like me? He said, of course I like you. I don't work with people I don't like. He's like, and she's like, no, do you like me like me? It was like so high schoolish. And he says, look, first let's focus on doing what we need to do for the artist, and I'll talk about other things later with you. He does come back in the dress, and he lets her know that he is interested in her, but he has a reason for pause. First, she's a newly divorcee, and she has an infant son. He would be the rebound. In most cases, the rebound doesn't last. And he doesn't want to get his feelings hurt, and I can really appreciate that, and I can understand that. And I can understand him trying to, you know, basically slow it down and make sure it's right for the both of them. So they kind of cleared the air with that. Zora and Isaiah. This boy is getting on my nerves. And I wish Zora would get some sense in her head. And perhaps some sense has been knocked into her head since this scene occurred. Alright, so she's riding in the car in his SUV. And, you know, he's been kind of a little bit each episode knocking the cotillion in some type of way, trying to say it's not cool. And then he says, oh, I guess it is cool if you want to go, that type of thing. But he's been trying to control this whole cotillion thing. So he didn't get his fitting like he was supposed to. And then he says, look, I got a surprise for you. And he tells her to open the glove department. There are 2 tickets to Floodgate. Now, please, if anyone knows what Floodgate is, please educate me. Please write in the comments below. I don't know what Floodgate is. So, you know, educate me. But anyway, Floodgate's supposed to be happening the same time as the cotillion. He's trying to say, well, let's do this instead of that. And she's like, no, I want to do the cotillion. And he's like, well, I want to do Floodgate. So if I don't take you, what are you going to do? And she said, well, I guess I'll find somebody else to take me. And as a result of him not liking her response, he took advantage of the fact that she wasn't wearing her seatbelt. And he forcibly slammed his brakes so that her head would hit the dashboard. She developed a nice, nasty little bruise on her head, her forehead, right by here. And she's like, why did you do that? So when she protests, he's like, it's your own fault. I told you to wear the seatbelt properly. You caused that on yourself. And she's like, no, take me home now. He said, okay, I'll take you to the stupid cotillion. And she said, he's like, no, I'm not taking you home. She said, oh no, you want to take me home now. He's like, okay, whatever. And he takes her home. Now, at the time that she enters in, Carissa and Jacob are in heavy discussion. So she runs in talking about she had to go to the bathroom, and she had her faux locks covering this nasty bruise. So when she gets upstairs to the bathroom, she quickly starts applying makeup to the area to hide the bruise. So no one's the wiser that this actually happened. And so I'm hoping that she leaves him alone, but I don't think she is. That's really the bottom line of it. Alright, so let's talk about Carissa for a moment. Carissa has done everything she could to possibly equip her in-laws with the information to take Basie down. And her deal is that she wants Jacob to get Triumph, take over the Triumph Church. So Bishop's plan was to go confront Basie, convince him to give Triumph to Jacob, and for him to turn himself into the police. Well, when that backfires, he comes back to Carissa and says, hey, he calls our bluff, so therefore, you know what? I guess we're going to have to call the police. Now, this is not going in the direction that Carissa wanted to go, because it needs to go smoothly. It needs to look like Basie has consciously decided to resign and turn over the church to Jacob, so there would be less of a hassle. If it comes about in any other way, in a controversial way, then they may not decide to vote Jacob in. So this is unnerving her a bit until there's a knock on her door, because at this time Bishop and Carissa are at the parsonage, and Tasha comes in, and she is hysterical, and she's talking about his face, his beautiful face. They damaged his beautiful face, they beat him badly. And so Bishop winds up going with Tasha back over to Triumph and talking to Basie, because he was just there. So in between the time that he traveled from Triumph to the parsonage to talk to Carissa about the whole scenario. Here the guy has come in, the thug came in, beat him up, tore up his face. Tasha was, crying, talking about, why didn't you listen to me? And, I told you to stop doing this. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't hear you and what have you. And she's laying in his lap and she's crying. She doesn't know what to do. She leaves Triumph. She comes to Carissa, which is basically the only friend she has. And Bishop just happens to be there, overhears everything, goes with her back to Triumph. And now he's empowered with even more information, because now here is a badly beaten Basie who's holding his ribs. You don't know if they're broken or if they're just simply bruised, but he's beat up pretty badly. And of course, he's trying to be cocky and go against anything that Bishop is offering, because it's Bishop, right? But through the urging of Tasha, he relents and he decides to offer Triumph to Jacob. Now, in between time, Jacob and Carissa are at the parsonage, and Carissa has filled him in on what was going on. And Jacob's like, I don't want this. I got my own thing going on. I got the real church of Memphis going on. I want to do it my way, this, that, and other. And as they're arguing about it, Basie calls. He's like, look, man, I already heard. I don't want any parts, what have you. But Basie pleads with him. Look, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's bigger than the both of us. This is about the children of God. And I've sinned against them, and they deserve a leader that is going to take care of them. And, you're laying down your life for me to take this responsibility on. Okay. So he persuades Jacob to consider the congregation and the needs of the congregation. Since Jacob's already familiar, Jacob agrees to do that. But he turns back to Carissa. And this is why, it's underhanded. It's not God ordained. And she's definitely not First Lady material. And I say this with all confidence, simply because of how she tried to manipulate this situation to benefit her husband and to benefit her. She wants the prestige of being a First Lady. But whenever her husband goes to her and says, pray for me, she's like, what for? She has no discernment. And it's like she gets an attitude because he simply asked her to pray or to show some support. He's like, pray that we don't mess this up. This is a big undertaking. This is a mega church. Triumph is almost as equal to Calvary. Calvary had like 4,000 members. So I think that Triumph is as big as Calvary, or at least close to. So, it's, she is, she's looking at him like, why? Why would I be praying for you? So obviously, a first lady, being a first lady, the responsibilities of a first lady, the pains of being a first lady, is almost as bad as being a pastor. Like wanting those roles or responsibilities, I don't get why anybody would want to do that. And most people that are called to do it initially run from it because they realize how much responsibility comes with it, how much they're accountable for. So that's why most people who are called, it takes a long time for them to respond to that calling. Those who are jumping at the chance, most of them aren't called. Anyhow, going down the rabbit hole, coming back out like James Caldwell usually says. Let's go on to talk with Bishop. And Bishop decides that he's going to, of course, attend the installment because Jacob has accepted this Sunday. Jacob will be installed as new pastor for Triumph. And Lady May, of course, is going to be at Bishop's side. They're having a guest preacher at Calvary. Sophia is teaching the little saints about Daniel in the lion's den. So I'll get to what actually happens on that Sunday, the service, in just a minute. I want to talk about Lady Mae ignoring Lionel's calls. So she gets a call from Lionel, but she ignores it. She winds up going out in ministry with her daughter Grace, and this was a sweet thing that we saw. And she told Grace, well, I can't do it alone. I see that you're tired or what have you. She said, no, Mama, I'm fine. Let's go ahead. Let's do this. They go to a nursing home. And Grace is actually sitting down with Miss Esther. Miss Esther is actually the same actress who plays Miss Louise on If Loving You Is Wrong. And her name is Andrea Fry. But Miss Esther is telling a story about how the previous aide was mean and cruel, and how you have to report people who mistreat you. And that resonates with Grace. Okay, we're going back to that dream sequence. We're going back to what's really bothering Grace. Okay, so after the visit, Grace winds up reaching out to Darius, and she comes clean with her truth. Basically, Grace has been feeling guilty, and she's been feeling like a hypocrite, because she's been encouraging people to come out with their truth about what Robert did to them. She never told what he did to her. She was one of, could have been one of the victims. She was able to escape. So that dream sequence was actually her as a little girl escaping from him when he attempted to molest her. And so she told this truth to Darius, and he's the only one that she's ever shared the story with. So, you know, it's like, how can I encourage other people to tell their truth and I've never told mine? And then it's the guilt because she never said anything, that he went on to molest her sister for years. And so that explains a lot of Grace's motivation to take him down, because she didn't stop him when he initially tried to attack her, and she didn't stop him when she found out that her sister had been victimized by him, and he went on for 20 years without anyone taking him down. So, you know, there's still a lot of unresolved emotions and feelings that are coming to the surface at this point. And, you know, she doesn't believe she needs help, so of course she's not going to necessarily go through the conventional ways of getting the assistance that she needs. Okay. Alright, so let's get to the Sunday scene. Alright, the bottom line is that basically addresses his congregation, says he sinned against them. He's not going to give them details, but he's going to leave them in good hands. And, you know, he's going to leave them to Brother Jacob, who was the associate pastor there, and someone that's trustworthy and that will do right by them. He was supposed to turn himself into the police. Lady Mae and Bishop were supposed to escort him, but what he winds up doing is skipping out. So when they go at the end of the installment service, when Lady Mae and Bishop goes to Pastor's quarters, they find Pastor Skanks there. And they were like, well, why are you still here? And she says, because I refused to go with him, and I did my best to try to make him stay, but he refused. So she was going to leave the quarters to go forth and address the elders who had set up some type of goodbye for him, little celebratory thing to address them. So he couldn't bear being restricted. So he's vanished. So eventually he'll probably be serviced, but for now he's two shades to the wind. So the last thing is, while Bishop is like shaking his head about this matter, he gets a call from Lionel. And Lionel is like in a car, looking very frantic. Like, I'm on my way to see you. We have to have a face-to-face. And that's where the episode ends. So this was a good episode. Now, what is going to come out next week when Lionel talks to Bishop? Is he going to talk about the affair between him and Lady May? With Aaron being back in the picture in the previews, most likely this has to do with their affair and what happened between them, and he's going to convey that as to why Kevin may be missing. But we won't know until we see the next episode, which I believe is the last episode for this season. But tell me what your thoughts are. Let me know whether you like this video, whether you don't like the video. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Please vote, please subscribe, please engage me. Let me know what you think. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know what you would like to see in future episodes. Until the next episode, bye!